In the latest season of Love, the lights flickered behind the veil of anxiety as Atlanta, a flourishing city that has produced some of the biggest names in hip hop, prepared to see a new chapter in the ongoing narrative of reality TV drama. As well as hip hop, Atlanta's streets were a whirl of activity following an intense incident between Lil Scrappy and Chaos, two of the show's stars, which started calmly enough with a few words exchanged. In the middle of the not one to back down from anything, Chaos was known for his fiery personality and razor-sharp rhymes. However, what began as a disagreement swiftly escalated into a heated altercation that threatened to topple the entire Atlanta hip-hop scene. Challenged as Scrappy, the self-styled Prince of the South, wasn't exactly one to remain silent, as both men were no strangers to combat. Tension flared during a key moment on the show because their rivalry had gotten so intense. Show where accusations were made, arguments broke out, and the whole thing was captured on camera. Irrevocable words were exchanged, but Khaotic wasn't prepared to let them go because he had something to evidence, and it became clear that his conflict with Scrappy was more than just a show. Chaos' response to the battle, a diss single aimed specifically at Lil Scrappy, was released to the world a few days later. The title, Disrespect, made it obvious right away that Khaotic wasn't holding back. He was assaulting with an intensity that mirrored the fire in his eyes as they faced up. The song was raw, angry, and chaotic, reflecting Scrappy's street cred, his past, and his position in the rap industry. Each lyrical phrase was punctuated with scathing accusations, and the delivery was rapid and unrelenting. Pointed fans and reviewers swiftly figured out the deeper meanings of Jav's lyrics, frantic arguments, and his voice brimming with disdain. You aren't the king of nothing. How will you respond when it's real heat? Within hours, the song was tearing up social media and openly criticizing Scrappy's reputation as a rough person. The streets of Atlanta were alive with talk about the diss, a song with a sizable fan base split between loyalty to Scrappy and respect for Khaotic's boldness. Everyone was curious about Lil Scrappy's response to the mayhem brought on by the diss track's release, and it wasn't just of settling the conflict, it was a declaration of his standing in the company and that he was not afraid to defend his convictions, even if it meant going up against a seasoned veteran like Lil Scrappy. The battle for love ended. It was time for the chips to fall where they may since the song was out there. His passion had only been stoked by hip-hop Atlanta. The effects of Khaotic's diss track will be felt for months to come in the Atlanta rap scene. Whether Scrappy would use his own song to exact retribution or decide to keep it cool would only be revealed in time. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just another reality show plot. In the hip-hop industry, real beast and actual. The game can be permanently changed by bands. Lil Scrappy has long been a mainstay of Atlanta's hip-hop and love culture, known for his intense temper and loyalty to his entourage. Admirers have been observing his turbulence. Nothing could have predicted the day when Scrappy's own choices would lead to his downfall, despite his journey on the full screen showcasing his career and familiar relationships. Race it all started with a particularly nasty argument with a cast member who was notorious for his brash and unpredictable demeanor and who had never shied away from expressing his views. He had gotten into a quarrel with Scrappy over a trivial matter that quickly escalated out of control because he was eager to start trouble. Insults were hurled, words were exchanged, and what started as a disagreement swiftly escalated into a full-fledged fight. Scrappy, who had always had a short fuse, went to the breaking point as the two men's statements became more caustic and the tension mounted. However, Scrappy's warnings during a fit of wrath were what ultimately led to his demise. He used more than simply words to foretell destruction. His tone was foreboding, and the words themselves left little opportunity for interpretation. The employees and producers who had observed the incident were shocked to discover that this was not just another heated argument, but rather a man who had fallen too far behind the cameras. Things moved. Swift made the decision to fire one of the most well-known characters on the program after carefully considering the possible outcomes. Scrappy, who had been a part of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta from the beginning of the show, as well as the program's reputation and the safety of the cast and staff, suffered a horrible blow. Had been essential to his career. The stage had given him the chance to showcase his music, life, and intricate family relationships, but now everything was in danger. When the news leaked, supporters were split over a moment of vulnerability. Some were furious at Scrappy for being irascible and causing issues. However, some were dissatisfied with how quickly. More than merely a relationship ending, Scrappy's dismissal symbolized the fine line reality star's ongoing struggle between entertaining and emotional fallout. The cost of his anger and his incapacity to control it during a passionate moment was brought home to him by television in the days that followed. Scrappy remained silent, thinking over his public presence had always been characterized by bravery and confidence, but behind the scenes, the reality of what had happened began to set in. He had injured himself, which in turn damaged his. Although she continued to appear on the show, her career remained unaffected by the aftermath, and the hatred between him and Scrappy continued to exist in the background. Would go on without Scrappy, yet for the first time in a long time, he was not the primary focus, rather Scrappy did. The lesson on anger was difficult but necessary. Before now, that served as a shield for him, served as a barrier to his success and losing his position on Love and Hip Hop. His career in familiar relationships, but nothing could have foreseen the day when Scrappy's actions would bring him into disrepute. It all started with a very heated argument with a former member who had. He was well known for being outspoken, quick to start problems, and unafraid to express his views. He and Scrappy had a quarrel that quickly escalated from a small disagreement. Words were spoken, taunts were slung, and what had started out as a dispute quickly escalated into a full-scale dispute. Scrappy, who had always been known for losing his temper readily, reached his breaking point as the tension mounted. Although the two guys spoke harshly to each other, Scrappy's threats, which went beyond words, were what ultimately led to his death. The tone was foreboding, and the words themselves did not leave much room for interpretation. The producers and employees who had seen the situation were shocked to learn that this was a man who had overreached himself rather than just another heated argument.